of those schools. Attendance was not very good. In 1852 or 3, less than half of the children in Provo were going to school. But after they passed the law for free public education, most of the people started attending public schools. One of Provo's biggest businesses through the years, until the 1980s approximately, was the Taylor Brothers department store. Started with a small building of kiln-dried brick, and expanded year after year until it became Provo's largest department store. It was owned by George Taylor at first, and then his sons took it over, called it Taylor Brothers Department Store. They had just about anything that you wanted you could find in Taylor Brothers Department Store. It had hardware, furniture, window coverings, things of that sort. Just about everything, so clothing. Across the street to the south of Taylor Brothers Department Store is the Dixon Taylor Russell Company, DTR, where they specialized more in home furnishings. They did not sell on credit. Their big selling feature was, we sell for cash only, and that way we can give you the best price on anything you want to buy. Lower prices, you have to pay cash, yes, but you save money in the process. That was started by a grandson of George Taylor and some of his business associates, and was a big factor in Provo's downtown life until about the 1970s or 80s, when some of the big department stores put it out of business. Some of the national chains put it out of business. This is the. We're very, very close. If this is not the actual ford across the Provo River, the crossing place, it's very close to the ford across the Provo River, where the trail south crossed on the way to the southern colonies and to Southern California. All of the gold rushers who took the trail south followed this trail down through the settlements and on through where Las Vegas is today and to Southern California and then north. But this is the place. It's got a gravelly bottom, and it was an acceptable place to cross the river. The ford was established, or the Fort Utah was established just downstream on the banks of the Provo, and we'll take a look at it. This was a favorite place for the Utes to camp on the Provo River. In the Great Basin, it was difficult to find enough food in any one place for all of the Indians to congregate in one place, except during spawning season on the Provo River. The trout from Utah Lake and the sucker from Utah Lake spawned in the river, covered the bottom of the river. I guess you could walk across the river on the fish. That's how thick they were. Parley P. Pratt came down in July of 1849 and said all the people needed to do was wade into the river and throw out fish. That's how many fish there were. This abundance of fish allowed all of the Ute bands in Utah to congregate here on the Provo River once a year for their annual fish festival. They stayed here as long as the sucker and the trout ran. They ate fish fresh. They dried and salted fish to take back to camp with them. It was something akin to a mountain man rendezvous. There was horse racing, there was gambling, there was courting, and it was just a huge get-together. And this is where the pioneers selected to establish their fort. One of their objectives was to try to convert the Indians to the Mormon religion and the white man's way of life. And they reasoned that if they were going to do that, they would have to live right amongst the Indians. So they got in right close to where the Indians were camped. The Provo is still a good trout stream. And I've talked to friends who love to fish, and say that this lower stretch is just as good as the upper stretch, except that it's fished a lot less heavily. So they like fishing down here. We'll go down and take a look at where the first fort was established in April. On April Fool's Day, as a matter of fact, is the day that the pioneers arrived in Provo, 1849. In the 1990s, just before Provo celebrated its sesquicentennial in 1997, Provo City commissioned my wife and I guess I should say, being an English teacher, commissioned my wife and me to find the location of Fort Utah. And we went to the records in the church office building, read a lot of journals, a lot of correspondence and so forth, and actually located an 1849 map of the fort, and came to the conclusion that this is the site of Fort Utah. Beasley Monument, good old Wayne and the boys made us a beautiful monument to erect here, and I wouldn't think it was 2 or 3 weeks until it had been highly vandalized here on the Provo River Trail, unfortunately. But the fort was built here. It started building on April the 3rd, 1849. Did I say 97? I meant 99. Provo sesquicentennial was 1999. And we were supposed to find the fort to commemorate the sesquicentennial in 1999. We found that the fort, unfortunately, the site of the fort stretches directly under the freeway. So we like to say that Fort Utah suffers from road rage. Part of it was on this side of the freeway on the east side, part of it was on the west side of the freeway. Right where the freeway I-15 crosses the Provo River is where the fort was located, most of it being under the fort. The Utah Statewide Archaeological Society, Utah Valley chapter, did a little exploratory dig here in '99 to see if we could find any artifacts left over from the fort. And we're lucky enough to hit a little pocket of ashes. And in that pocket of ashes, we found artifacts that dated to the Pioneer period. We found part of an inkwell, some glass from that appeared to be possibly a chamber pot, and some metal artifacts, horseshoes and things of that sort that dated to the Pioneer period. I have since talked to some avocational archaeologists who do a little metal detecting, and they have told me that they have found numerous shot balls on this and percussion caps that were used to shoot the percussion cap rifle on the site. So we're fairly confident that we have the site of Fort Utah right here. Now, one interesting story about the fort was that on the way down here on April the 1st, 1849, about 2 miles north of this site, a young Ute brave came riding out on his horse, gesturing wildly, and made it known through sign language that the caravan was supposed to stop. Some accounts say that he drew a line across the trail. Other accounts say that he threw a buffalo robe down across the trail. What he was doing actually was asking tribute for traveling through Ute lands, for all of the vegetation that the animals ate, the draft animals ate, and for the water they used and the fish they used. They were supposed to pay a price. And when he palavered with the interpreter, Dimmick B. Huntington, and found out that this was not to be like groups in the past. These people were going to stay here. They were not simply going to pass through, they were going to settle here. He became even more agitated, rode back to the village, got a larger group. They came out and talked to the settlers again, made the agreement. Dimmick B. Huntington was made to raise his right hand to the sky and swear by the sun that the pioneers would never take the Indian land. I think that gained for him the title of being Utah Valley's first politician, because within a decade